manobhishtam sthapitam yena bhutale swayam rupaha kadamahyam dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Panan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurdushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarobhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullaravindayatapatra netre Yena tvaya bharata taila purnaha prajvalito jnanamaya pradipaha prapanna parijataya totra vetraika parnaye jnanamudraya krishnaya Gita Amrita Duhe Namaha. We're discussing chapter 14, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, the three modes of material nature. 5 questions are being answered in this chapter. What are the modes? How do they bind us? What are their effects? How to get out of them? So in the class yesterday, we discussed about what the modes are, how each one of them individually bind the jiva. The mode of goodness binds by an attachment to knowledge and happiness. The mode of passion binds by engagement in fruitive activities, and the mode of ignorance binds one by laziness, carelessness, and sleep. And what their effects are, that also we studied, their characteristics in verses 11, 12, and 13 of chapter 14. Now, the remaining section in this chapter will be about what happens to someone who dies in the mode of goodness or in passion or ignorance. Where does that person go? Then what are the medium-term and short-term results of being influenced by one of these modes? And finally, how can one go beyond the modes, transcend the modes, and the symptoms of someone who has gone beyond the modes? That is going to be covered in the remaining section of this chapter. So we'll start the discussion from verse number 14. Death in a dominant mode. Death in a dominant mode. When a particular mode is dominating over us, and let's say we die, where do we go? In what direction will we move? That's given here in verse number 14 and 15. Yada sattve pravriddhetu pralayam yati dehabhrit tadottama vidan lokan amalan pratipadyate. Rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangishu jayate tatha pralinastamasi moolahayonishu jayate. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure planets of the great sages. Pure planets of the great sages, which means the upper planets where the sages live. When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. Now, who are engaged in fruitive activities? Human beings. So someone who dies in the mode of passion is born amongst the humans. And when one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. This is their destination. So depending on what mode influences us, we are born in a different country, in a different family, in a different state, in a different community. It's all on the basis of modes. And this is something very interesting. You know, maybe last year or 2 years ago, I was just thinking about the different kinds of people whom we come across while trying to share Krishna consciousness. I've been to so many cities and so many places. Like in 2017 or 18, I had spent days and nights in almost like 50 cities in 1 year, you know, going to different places in India, villages, towns, metropolises. And I was looking at the culture from which people come, the different backgrounds: North India, East India, South India, Central India, Western India. And something very unique was noticed by me, observed by me, that it very much matters from which place you are coming, you know, because that affects your approach towards life, your attitudes, your desires, your goals, your ambitions. We may say, no, it doesn't matter. It matters so much. So much it matters. You go to North India, people are of one kind. You go to South India, people are of one kind. You go to Western India, Gujarat and Maharashtra, people are of one kind. And, you know, when it comes to coming to Krishna consciousness or taking to spirituality, our background matters a lot, because it's we who are coming into the process. So where we come from, that really, really plays a very important role. And sometimes it becomes a plus point, and many times it also becomes a minus point from where you are coming, because it's going to affect how you are going to look at the whole process of Krishna consciousness. How will you approach this process of Krishna consciousness? You know, and I observed that families, communities, which are mostly dominated by mode of goodness, kids born in those communities are also in mode of goodness. I'm not saying 100%, but more likely chances are there. Then communities and families which are very passionate in nature, then people born in those cultures, communities, they're also of that nature, you know. And then communities, societies where people are so much in ignorance, then people born over there also take up that kind of nature. So that's why it does great benefit to us if we want to introspect our journey in the process of Krishna consciousness. If you want to know what obstacles you are facing in the practice of Krishna consciousness, also study the community from which you are coming to Krishna consciousness. Also look at the family from which you are coming to Krishna consciousness. Because those obstacles are not just your obstacles, those are traits or characteristics that you have borrowed from those communities or cultures or family. It has come to you from them or from that group. And it may become an obstacle in your spiritual growth. Now, this only that person can do who is very unbiased in nature and is very open to accept, evaluate oneself and also see the wrong in one's own, tradition, culture, past, and learn from it. Right? Like, just giving an example, not really blaming anyone. If you hear people from the South, when they talk, they have a style to talk, right? And then when you hear people from the North, when they talk, they have a style to talk, right? Now, that style to talk is not just about the accent. It's also about which mode is controlling them. Which mode is controlling them. Now, when you hear people who are Rajasic in nature and talk, they talk as if they are going to miss a train. They will talk so fast because they are passionate in nature, So the mind speaks louder than their mouth. What to do? So in order to catch up with the mind, they have to speak very fast. And those who are in ignorance, when they talk, then you will easily go to sleep because they talk so slow. The voice is telling this person is a damn lazy person. The voice itself is telling. So if just by studying our background, we can get a better understanding of, what problems we may have individually in growing in Krishna consciousness. Because those modes are affecting us also. Why we were born in that family, why were we born in that country? Because our cumulative karma was similar to that particular community's cumulative karma. And our modes somewhat match with those people's modes. That's why we're born in that place. So this is a very important subject in that sense, and also a lot can be discussed. So here Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that one who's in goodness, when that person dies, that person is born in higher planets, or relatively speaking, that person will be born on the planet Earth in a relatively better family, cultured family, civilized family, that kind. The next verse says, when one dies in passion, he engages in fruitive activities, means born as a human. And then one dies in ignorance, he takes birth in animal kingdom. Now, regarding this, Srila Prabhupada also mentions something which is contemporary, let's say, lesson. What is that? He says, some people have the impression that when the soul reaches the platform of human life, it never goes down again. Who are these some people? Some of the Christians, they have this idea that human soul is different from animal soul. And that's why humans, they can kill animals. Why? Because the animal soul is inferior and human soul is superior. So in Bible, there is a statement, you are the lord of the beast. The beast means animals. And human is the lord of the beast, which means the lord can then kill the beast. But then this is not the Vedic understanding, Gita's understanding. All souls are same, whether human or animal or bird or insect or plant or tree, all souls are same. It's just that they are taking different kinds of bodies based on different karma. So even not what to speak of Christians, even in Jainism, they have this understanding that the human soul is different from the soul in other species. They're not the same. So in that way, humans are more superior. We also say humans are superior, but not because the soul is different, because the consciousness made available in the human body is different. Soul is the same. But it's when you say it's a different soul, then actually it makes the whole law of karma change, because then a human being can never become an animal, or the soul can never move into an animal body. And a soul in the animal body can never turn into a human being, but that's not how it is. So one can go anywhere. According to this verse, if one develops the mode of ignorance, after his death, he is degraded to an animal form of life. That's what happens. Now, this table will shows us just a summary of these three things. When there's death in goodness, places of heavenly enjoyment, pure higher planets of the great sages like Brahmaloka or Janaloka. When someone dies in passion, then born among persons attached to work. And when someone is dying in ignorance, born among animal species or something similar. Something like that. The next section, actions in a particular mode. Two kinds of actions will be described here. Actions that produce a long-term or a medium-term result, and actions which produce a short-term result. Two things are specified. So let's look at the Sanskrit verses. Karmanaha sukritasyahu satvikam nirmalam phalam rajasastu phalam dukkham ajnanam tamasa phalam. The result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness. But action done in the mode of passion results in misery. And action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. So goodness, because it's a pure activity, it gives happiness. And that happiness is almost perfect happiness. Of course, it is not as perfect as the happiness in spiritual world, but relatively speaking, it is perfect happiness. In material life, there cannot be happiness better than that. So it's perfect in goodness. But in passion, when one acts in passion, there's a mixture of happiness and distress. Sukha plus dukkha, both come. There'll be some enjoyment in that activity. There will also be a lot of pain in that activity. Like, can someone give me an example of such an activity where there is a mixture of happiness and suffering? And people still do that. People engage in those activities. Any example? Lokesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Like when sometimes there's a party, like marriage functions, and people eat dinner at late night, but they feel enjoyed at night, but in the morning,
Okay, so stomach problem. So eat and then have stomach issues. Okay, Hanit Mataji.
Gymming, Prabhuji, going to the gym, exercising heavily, giving a lot of trouble to the body, but enjoying it.
Correct, yes, so giving so much pain to the body, trying to build muscles and, reshaping the body. But then also it is painful. The whole exercise is so painful. And then after that, person will enjoy showing his pictures to everyone or pictures to everyone. Okay, Bhakti Mataji.
Alcohol consumption. Temporarily there is happiness and later there is pain in the body for long term.
Yes. Srila Prabhupada writes in purport, making skyscraper buildings, digging tunnels. It's not easy, very painful activities. Now, we may say, I don't have to go through the pain. Okay, you don't have to go through the pain, but what to speak of the laborers who are working on the site? They have to go through so much pain, right? They have to have sleepless nights. Even at night, they are at the construction site and they're constructing buildings. So very painful. And then it gives some happiness that I can have a house on 20th floor or 40th floor or 60th floor, something like that. So this is happiness and misery together, coming together. And then ignorance, it only gives misery. It doesn't give any happiness. We'll read the purport here. Someone please raise your hand. Kavya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The result of pious activities in the mode of goodness is pure. Therefore, the sages who are free from all illusion or situated in happiness. But activities in the mode of passion are simply miserable. Any activity for material happiness is bound to be defeated. If, for example, one wants to have a skyscraper, so much human misery has to be undergone before a big skyscraper can be built. The financier has to take much trouble to earn a mass of wealth, and those who are slaving to construct the building have to render physical toil. The miseries are there. Thus, Bhagavad-gita says that in any activity performed under the spell of the mode of passion, there is definitely great misery. There may be a little so-called mental happiness. I have this house or this money, but this is not actual happiness. Should I continue? Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Bhakti Mataji.
As far as the mode of ignorance is concerned, the performer is without knowledge, and therefore all his activities result in present misery. And afterwards he will go on toward animal life. Animal life is always miserable. Although under the spell of the illusory energy, Maya, the animals do not understand this. Slaughtering poor animals is also due to the mode of ignorance. The animal killers do not know that in the future the animal will have a body suitable to kill them. That is the law of nature. In human society, if one kills a man, he has to be hanged. That is the law of the state. Because of ignorance, people do not perceive that there is a complete state controlled by the Supreme Lord. Every living creature is son of the Supreme Lord, and he does not tolerate even an ant's being killed. One has to pay for it. So indulge in animal killing for the taste of the tongue is the grossest kind of ignorance. A human being has no need to kill animals because God has supplied so many nice things. If one indulges in meat eating anyway, it is to be understood that he is acting in ignorance and is making his future very dark. Of all kinds of animal killing, the killing of cows is most vicious because the cow gives us all kind of pleasure by supplying milk. Cow slaughter is an act of the grossest type of ignorance. In the Vedic literature, the words 𝗪𝗵 pranita matsaram indicate that one who, being fully satisfied by milk, is desirous of killing the cow is in the grossest ignorance. There is also a prayer in the Vedic literature that states, Namo Brahmanaya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagad Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. My Lord, you are the well-wisher of the cows and the Brahmanas, and you are the well-wisher of the entire human society and world. Vishnu Puran 1.19.65. The purport is that special mention is given in that prayer for the protection of cows and the Brahmanas. Brahmanas are the symbol of spiritual education, and cows are the symbol of the most valuable food. These two living creatures, the Brahmanas and the cows, must be given all protection. That is real advancement of civilization. In modern human society, spiritual knowledge is neglected and cow killing is encouraged. It is to be understood then that human society is advancing in the wrong direction and is clearing the path to its own condemnation. A civilization which guides the citizens to become animals in their next lives is certainly not a human civilization. The present human civilization is, of course, grossly misled by the modes of passion and ignorance. It is very dangerous age, and all nations should take care to provide the easiest process, Krishna consciousness, to save humanity from the greatest danger. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Very nice, Prabhupada, eye-opening. So this is the summary table. Goodness produces pure happiness, relatively speaking, of course. And that happiness is devoid of sorrow, illusion, and impurity. Passion produces mixed happiness, a little happiness with abundance of grief, because there's a mixture of pious activity and sinful activity. And ignorance, it only gives grief. One's awareness is totally covered by ignorance. Means people will act foolishly when they are under the control of mode of ignorance. They don't know exactly what they're doing, what they're talking. They become foolish because of this mode, because of the control of this mode. Next, now direction in a particular mode. In which direction would one move when controlled by these modes. Okay, we have some. We did not discuss this verse, I think. Okay, let's discuss the verse 17 also. Then we'll go to the direction shloka. Sattva sanjayate jnanam rajaso lobha evacha pramada moho tamaso bhavato jnanam evacha. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion develop. Let's read the purport here also. Someone would volunteer, please. Rupanshi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Since the present civilization is not very congenial to the living entities, Krishna consciousness is recommended. Through Krishna consciousness, society will develop the mode of goodness. When the mode of goodness is developed, people will see things as they are. In the mode of ignorance, people are just like animals and cannot see things clearly. In the mode of ignorance, for example, they do not see that by killing one animal, they are taking the change of being killed by the same animal in the next life. Because people have no education in actual knowledge, they become irresponsible. To stop this irresponsibility, education for developing the mode of goodness of the people in general must be there. When they are actually educated in the mode of goodness, they will become sober. Prabhuji, thoda sa upar. In full knowledge of things as they are, then people will be happy and prosperous. Even if the majority of the people aren't happy and prosperous, if a certain percentage of the population develops Krishna consciousness and becomes situated in the mode of goodness, then there is a possibility for peace and prosperity all over the world. Otherwise, if the world is devoted to the modes of passion and ignorance, there can be no peace and prosperity. In the mode of In the mode of passion, people become greedy and their hankering for sense enjoyment has no limit. One can see that even if one has enough money and adequate arrangement for sense gratification, there is neither happiness nor peace of mind. That is not possible because one is situated in the mode of passion. If one wants happiness at all, his money will not help him. He has to elevate himself to the mode of goodness by practicing Krishna consciousness. When one is engaged in the mode of passion, not only is he mentally unhappy, but his profession and occupation are very troublesome. He has to devise so many plans and schemes to acquire enough money to maintain his status quo. This is all miserable. In the mode of ignorance, people become mad, being distressed by their circumstances. They take shelter of intoxication and thus they sink further to ignorance. Their future in life is very dark.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Now, death in a particular mode, direction in a particular mode. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhya tishthanti rajasaha jaganya guna vrittistha adho gachanti tamasaha. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Now, depending on the amount of sattva they have, that much higher they go. Someone having 100% sattva will be living in Satyaloka, the planet of Lord Brahma. Then 90% comes down, 80% comes further down, 70% comes further down. So above the planet Earth, there are 6 planetary systems. Based on the proportion of sattva they have, they go to that planet. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets. And those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. Jaganya guna vrittistha. They go to animal life. And animal life also, animals have better consciousness than birds. Birds have better consciousness than reptiles. Reptiles have better consciousness than fishes living in water. So of all the animals, fish is considered to be most tamasic. And then below that movable living entity, there is then inanimate or non-moving living entities, which are trees and plants and stones. So they are the lowest. So depending on the amount of tamas, they go accordingly downwards. We'll read the purport here. Sneha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. In this verse, the results of actions in the three modes of nature are more explicitly set forth. There is an upper planetary system consisting of the heavenly planets where everyone is highly elevated. According to the degree of development of the mode of goodness, the living entity can be transferred to various planets in this system. The higher planet is Satya Loka or Brahma Loka, where the prime person of this universe, Lord Brahma, resides. We have seen already that we can hardly calculate the wondrous condition of life in Brahmalok, but the highest condition of life, the mode of goodness, can bring us to this. The mode of passion is mixed. It is in the middle between the modes of goodness and ignorance. A person is not always pure, but even if he should be purely in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, he will simply remain on this earth as a king or a rich man. But because there are mixtures, one can also go down. People on this earth in the mode of passion or ignorance cannot forcibly approach the higher planets by machine. In the mode of passion, there is also the chance of becoming mad in the next life. The lowest quality, the mode of ignorance, is described here as abominable. The result of developing ignorance is very, very risky. It is the lowest quality in material nature. Beneath the human level, there are 8 million species of life: birds, beasts, reptiles, trees, etc. And according to the development of the mode of ignorance, people are brought down to these abominable conditions. The word tamasa is very significant here. Tamasa indicates those who stay continuously in the mode of ignorance without rising to a higher mode. Their future is very dark. There is an opportunity for men in the modes of ignorance and passion to the elevated to the mode of goodness, and that system is called Krishna consciousness. But one who does not take advantage of this opportunity will certainly continue in the lower modes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So now just think about this. Someone has this knowledge. How sad that person will be when that person sees how most of the people in this world, they are heavily controlled by the modes of passion and ignorance. Someone who has this knowledge will be sad to see their plight, because that person knows that if they are suffering now, 10 years down, 20 years down, 50 years down, next life, they will be suffering so much more. Right? So knowledge, real knowledge, makes us see not just our own suffering, but it also makes us see other suffering. Srila Prabhupada, what he's writing in the purport, is not just his analysis of the subject. It is his mood, the way he feels looking at the modern society. That this modern society, people think themselves to be so advanced, so developed, so much growing in their career and profession, developing their so-called personality. But at the end, where are they going? They are going to a miserable future. That's where they are going. They may say that we are so educated, we are so wonderful, we are so civilized and skilled. But in terms of the nature which they have, that is very, very much influenced by mode of passion and ignorance. So where are they going? They are going straight to animal life. That's where they are going. Srila Prabhupada, when he reached America and he saw the Boston skyline, people, they go to Dubai to see the Dubai skyline. When I was in Middle East in November, that's where the devotees, when we went from Abu Dhabi to Sharjah, we had to go through Dubai. So the devotee who was taking us, he was showing us, Prabhuji, look at that skyline. People come here to see that skyline. And people think this is great. The sky full of high-rise towers, that's advancement. But when Srila Prabhupada saw that skyline, he was thinking, you all want to live in those high-rise towers? So next life you become a bird and then live in the sky. Because that's what you want. So now you become bird then next life. Here you pay 60 lakhs or 8 million or 1 CR to purchase such a house. In that body, it will be free. You don't have to pay any rent to be in a bird's body. No rent, free rent, Then in that body, you can have not just a skyline view, you can live in the sky. So that's where that person is going. And Srila Prabhupada could see that because he was seeing through the eyes of scriptures. We read in the last chapter, right? 13th chapter. Jnana chakshuhu. See through the eyes of the scripture. Don't see through the normal eyes. See through the eyes of the scripture. What is the future of this society? Where are people going? And okay, if you are not so much concerned about others, where they are going, think about yourself, where you are going. Where is my life going? What's my future? So this is a very graphic chapter, actually, chapter 14, 15, 16. And if people say, no, this is just to say, this is just metaphorical, it is not literal, then why are you studying Bhagavad-gita? Every single thing in Bhagavad-gita is literal. It's not just metaphorical. So Srila Prabhupada, he saw the world through these eyes. And that's why you read his purports. His purports are very blunt. He speaks realistically that this is where the modern civilization is going. Full of ignorance and passion. That's all. Full of ignorance and passion. What they label as advancement. It's not advancement. And it's not that we have to wait for people to take birth in animal life. If you observe most of the people, even if they are so educated, the way they talk, the way they behave, the way they think about others, is almost like an animal only. There's no humanity. There's no humanity. Okay, in India, we don't have such sad situation. But go to US, people are just shooting people public in the street for no reason. People carrying gun, and then they're just killing people. Can you imagine? I mean, you have no enmity with that person. That person has done nothing bad to you, and you just shoot them. What is that? Is that really civilization? I mean, okay, if you want to steal that person's money and that's why you shot that person, still it will be considered fine. You have some sanity. You have some intelligence. You shot that person because you wanted to steal away that person's wealth. But then just killing people like that without any reason, what is that? That is mode of ignorance, heavy ignorance, So it is happening. It's happening all over the world. Especially, I don't know now how much of you are connected to the youth of the modern times, the present times. I did not pass out a long time ago. I just passed out maybe 10 years ago from college, university. And in these 10 years, the quality of youth has gone down maybe 2 times or 3 times. Now, if you talk to a boy who is 18, 19, 20 years old, or to a girl, you will definitely feel I'm talking to someone who has come out from Cartoon Network. You just have to put them into the television box, and then they'll very nicely replace all the cartoon characters. They're exactly out from the Cartoon Network. They don't know how to talk. They don't know how to walk. They don't know how to behave. They don't know anything. No understanding of culture, no understanding of values, no goals in life, just living life like an animal. Maybe they can just talk some good English. So yes, my son knows English, or my child can talk nicely in English. But what about having some principles in life? What they want to do for the society? Nothing. No. So we can see that it's all because of influence of these two modes, passion and ignorance, very strong, very prominent in the present day modern society, very, very prominent. And the result is very sad, that these people will have to then next life appear as animals. They will not get a human body, which is a big loss, very big loss, because this human body can give us such a great benefit of realizing God. And that opportunity is gone by them. They have missed it, lost it totally. So Srila Prabhupada, when we read this purpose, actually we should try to understand his mind. He's pouring out his mind, his heart, the concern he has for the modern day society. Now let's look at the chart or table, which talks about certain factors that influence the modes that act upon us. These are some of the factors. So agama, the kind of books you read or the scriptures you read will also determine which mode will control you. What kind of books you like to read? Do you like to read Gita, Bhagavad? Do you like to read newspapers? Do you like to read magazines? Do you like to read novels? What do you like to read? Agama, scriptures or books we read. Then apaha, the kind of water you drink. Where do you drink the water? Do you drink the water which is kept next to the toilet room? Do you drink such kind of water? Or you drink water which is coming from a fresh stream water? Or you drink water which is 30 days, 40 days, 60 days old? Which kind of water do you drink? Do you drink water which is taken from a reservoir which was full of human waste, and then that water was recycled, purified, and then provided back as drinking water? Which kind of water we are drinking? That will also affect the mode that controls us. Actually, water is one of the most important elements, and the kind of water we drink also decides heavily the kind of consciousness we will have. Where is that water kept? Is it kept in a sattvic environment, a rajasic environment, or a tamasic environment? So that will affect our thinking also. So why is the water which is in the temple considered to be holy? It is considered to be holy because it is in a holy atmosphere. It's in a sattvic atmosphere, or it's in a transcendental atmosphere. So now, because that water is in that transcendental atmosphere, that transcendental energy has entered into that water. Now, when you drink that water, you also then take in so much of transcendental energy. Now, same water, if it is kept next to the sewage, what will happen? That sewage is full of dirt, and that water will borrow that energy. And when you drink that water, that energy is going inside you. Right? The next, praja. What kind of association you keep, the kind of people you like to be friends with, or you gel in with, that kind of association affects our own state. Then desha, where we live. Which place do we live in? Which country are we living in? Which part of the country are we living in? Are we living close to a river, a mountain, a forest, a temple, or we are living close to the sewage line in a city? Or are we living close to the railway track? Or are we living close to the factories and industries? Where are we living? Are we living in a country which has sunlight? Or are we living in a country where you don't see the sun? So where are you living? Is your house having sufficient openings for the sun rays to come in? Is your house having a proper ventilation or not? If not, then that house is tamasic house in ignorance. Even if, let's say, one has paid so much of money, but if the house does not have inlets for sun rays and fresh air, then that's a tamasic house in ignorance. So where we live, very important. Nowadays, people live in basements. Basement is very tamasic, actually. Very tamasic. Who lives in the basement? Mouse, snake, cockroaches. They live in the basement, below the earth. So someone living in the basement, very tamasic. So where we live, next, Kala, time of the day. The day can also be divided into Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So which time of the day we are most active in? Some people, they are active at night, which means tamasic people. Right? Or are you active during the Brahma Muhurta time? When are you active? That's mode. Then next, karma. What are our activities? What kind of activities we engage in? Janma, our conditioning from birth. Dhyana, what kind of thoughts we entertain? Are they sattvic thoughts, rajasic thoughts, or tamasic thoughts? Tamasic thoughts are thoughts of destroying others' life, others' happiness, finding faults in them, criticizing them, lamenting, feeling sorry about everything in life. Those are tamasic thoughts. Rajasic thoughts, defeating someone, exploiting someone, enjoying things, conquering the world. Those are rajasic thoughts. Sattvic thoughts, how can I be more kind, more gentle, more sober? Sattvic thoughts, full of positivity, warmth, hope, enthusiasm. Those are sattvic thoughts. So what kind of thoughts do we entertain? Do we try to change our thoughts, the way we think, or we don't try to change them? That will also decide which mode controls us. Then mantras we chant, means topics we speak about or we like to hear about, the mantras we chant. And then sanskaras, the ceremonies that we go through. In the past, when people would get married, Vivaha sanskar is a very important sanskar. So those marriages would be so much in Sattva Guna. But nowadays, marriages are only in the Rajaguna. Or even Tamasic. They will drink during the marriage ceremony. They will party. These are Rajasic Vivaha sanskars. Instead of singing songs in praise of God, instead of singing songs in praise of the Kul Deva and Kul Devta or Kul Devi, they are singing Bollywood songs during the time of marriage. These are Rajasic Vivaha sanskars, not Sattvic Vivaha sanskars. So what kind of sanskars we go through in life, that will also affect what kind of person we become, right? So this chapter is actually very, very practical. And, it really talks about our lifestyle, what kind of lifestyle we are living. And that kind of person we become, and that kind of experience we get, right? So we'll go to the next section. Lesson here. Wisdom is to see how we affect our environment, plus how does our environment affect us. That's wisdom. To be able to see that. That is wisdom. And then accordingly act or accordingly change one's lifestyle. So now the next topic is transcending the modes. Now we understood the modes are really heavy and they control almost everything of our life. So now how do we go beyond them? How do we transcend them? That's the next part. We don't have to lose hope. There is all hopes to transcend the modes. Krishna will explain that to Arjuna. But then one has to take to that process. So we'll come to that after a break.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we can't hear you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we resume. So this section, transcending the modes, let's root at the verses. Verse 19. Nanyam gunebhya kartaram yada drashtanupashyati gunebhyascha param veti madhavam sudhikachati Gunanetanattityaten dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkher vimukto mritamashnute. Verse 19. When one properly sees that in all activities, no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. Now here is the solution part, and I request you to kindly pay attention to this section. It's not that easy, though it is quite easy, but still to understand. So how to transcend the modes? Now we know we are under the modes. Maybe Sattva Guna, maybe Rajaguna, maybe Tamaguna, maybe the mixture of all of them. Now, how do we go beyond? How do we transcend? So this verse gives the solution in two parts. This verse. First is, Na anyam gunebhyah kartaram yada drashtanu pashyati. First. So that's step number one. Observe everything that you do. Observe it to be done by the modes. Observe it to be done by the modes. Not that you are doing, the modes are doing. The modes are. First step is that. If I'm talking, it's the modes that's making me talk. If I'm walking, it's the modes. If I'm sleeping, it's the modes. If I'm dressing myself up, it's the modes. I'm going to the office, it's the modes. It's the modes that are functioning. So first step is to observe that. When we observe this, we will understand that the modes are active and we are not. Which means we are being forced by the modes to act. Almost in a helpless manner. And after that, what do? We begin to understand, I am not those modes. The modes are different from me. If I am so passionate, it's not me who is passionate. It's the mode of passion which is controlling me. I'm different from the modes. I'm not these modes. This can very much help people to come out of all kinds of complexes, whether they feel inferiority complex or superiority complex. These steps which are mentioned here, they are better solution than any psychotherapeutic solution may be given to us by some psychologist. We just begin to understand that we are not our habits. We are not our personality traits. They are different from us. We are not them. Which means we begin to live outside the cocoon of our own mental creation. That's what the first step is. So then we begin to know, I am not the body and I am not the activities performed by the body. They are just happening by the body, by the modes. I'm not really doing them. They just happen. They just happen. I will give you an example. Have you seen people who suddenly start walking while they're asleep at night? They'll get out of the bed, and then you will talk to that person. You will call out that person. Hello, where are you going? And that person does not hear you. That person will just go wherever that person is going. Maybe to the washroom, maybe to the kitchen, to the refrigerator. And they'll just do whatever they want to do. And after that, they'll again come and sleep in the bed. In the morning, when they get up, you ask that person, where did you go for a tour yesterday night? I was sleeping. I did not go anywhere. So we are almost like that, actually. We may think that we are so active and awake, but we are almost like that, walking in sleep. And it is just happening. We are not doing it. It's just happening. The modes push us to act like that. The way we talk, the way we eat, the way we think is all so much controlled by the modes. So first step is to observe you are different from that. That's first step. Then second step is what? 𝗪𝗵𝗿𝗃 param madhbhavam sadikachati. Now in that state of mind, try to understand Krishna's position, the Supreme Lord's position with Supreme Consciousness, that he is transcendental to the modes. He is not under the modes the way I am. He is beyond. Though he acts like an ordinary human, it's not an ordinary human, it's transcendental. This practice helps one to come out of the control or the influence of the modes. Now, this practice is not the path of bhakti. This is the path of jnana. This is what a jnani is supposed to do. What a bhakta will do to transcend the modes, that Krishna will explain later. But what a jnani will do to transcend the modes, that explained in this verse. You know, that person observes the modes to be different from oneself. So we'll read the purport. Yes, Srinivas Gopal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. See things as they are. I read on the screens, probably I read from the book. Actually, the living entity is not the performer of different activities. He is forced to act because he is situated in a particular type of body, conducted by some particular mode of material nature. Unless one has the help of spiritual authority, he cannot understand in what position he is actually situated. For one who is able to see things as they are, the influence of material nature gradually ceases. 14.19 purport. Bhagavad-gita. Hare Krishna.
One who is able to see things as they are. So now we have an exercise, a self-analysis to be done. Reflect. Have you ever observed what your nature as an individual is? Do you find that you always almost act in a particular and specific manner in most of the situations?
Yes.
Observe your thought process, your decision-making approach, your likes and dislikes. And by doing that, you will come to know which modes control you the most. Like some of the students I know, you put them in any class. During the whole class, though they are sitting in the class, because of their nature, they'll be not in the class. They'll be busy with their mobile phone, chatting, looking at messages, surfing, browsing, or talking to someone. Means they'll be spaced out. That's their nature. And it's not just about class that they are spaced out in class. In their life also, they are very much spaced out. That's their nature. They are spaced out everywhere. So you have, it's just about you study yourself in a situation and you can then connect the dots, and that's how you are most of the time. Some people complain, my relationships are not good. But then if that person observes, that person will understand, my relationships with no one is good. Not that 1 or 2%. Anyone comes in my life, I end up having a particular kind of relationship only. And that's how, that is so why? Not because of them, because of me. Because of me, because of my nature, the way I deal. You put a person in 10 different companies, that person will do the same, have the same escalation in job profile. Why? Not because the company is bad, because it's your particular attitude, your approach. right? So that's what a person has to understand. Now, if you take that person and remove that person from Mumbai and put that person in Vrindavan, or remove that person from Bangalore and put that person in Mayapur, remove that person from the passionate city life and put them in an ashram, do you think things will change much? No. Why? Same person. So then that person will go to Vrindavan, and that person will not become like Vrindavan. That person will make Vrindavan like Mumbai. That's what will happen. Because same nature, no? This is how the modes control us. And if you observe this, as Krishna promises here, once you begin to observe it, you have already started winning over it. You have already started conquering that nature. The beginning is to begin to observe. Begin to observe. Because that observation will lead to diagnosis. Oh, I was so far thinking the problem is with everything and everyone around me, but now I realize the problem is in me. So it's me who has to change. Sometimes people think change means it has to be so much an external change. Often, it need not be an external change. It just needs that you change your way of thinking. That's all. The way you approach life, the way you look at life, the way you look at things happening in your life. It's just about that. You change that and suddenly you find yourself living a totally new life. So this section is so really relevant. If people take this knowledge seriously, they can have drastic change in their life. It is so helpful. There cannot be a better self-help section than this particular chapters of Bhagavad-gita. They really put the spotlight on you, your conditioned nature, and then how you can overcome that conditioned nature. Right? So Krishna said 2 steps here. First, observe the modes. Second, understand me to be transcendental. And you do that, you can also help cross the modes. Next verse. Now, okay, we'll read the purport of this verse. We have not read the purport here. We'll read the purport. Someone who has not read yet would like to read. Nagaraj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One can transcend all the activities of the modes of material nature simply by understanding them properly, by learning from the proper souls. The real spiritual master is Krishna, and he is imparting this spiritual knowledge to Arjuna. Similarly, it is from those who are fully in Krishna consciousness that one has to learn the science of activities in terms of the modes of nature. Otherwise, one's life will be misdirected. By the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, a living entity can know of his spiritual position, his material body, his senses, how he is entrapped, and how he is under the spell of the material modes of the nature. He is helpless, being in the grip of these modes, but when he can see his real position, then he can attain to the transcendental platform, having the scope for spiritual life. Actually, the living entity is not the performer of different activities. He is forced to act because he is situated in a particular type of body, conducted by some particular mode of material nature. Unless one has the help of the spiritual authority, he cannot understand in what position he is actually situated. With the association of a bona fide spiritual master, he can see his real position, and by such an understanding, he can become fixed in full Krishna consciousness. A man in Krishna consciousness is not controlled by the spell of the material modes of nature. It has already been stated in the 7th chapter that one who has surrendered to Krishna is relieved from the activities of material nature. For one who is able to see things as they are, the influence of material nature gradually ceases.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
So one has to first begin to see like that. Then slowly the control of the modes will reduce, will start coming out of it. And then we'll have real control over our own life. Gunanetanatyatrin dehi deha samudbhavan. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. Which means that person will become really happy. That's what this verse says. Because that person has now won over one's own base nature. I can promise you that victory is the most cherished victory when you have won over your own base nature. That's the most wonderful battle, and that's the most nicely celebrated victory. The day you win over your own weaknesses, shortcomings, base nature, bad habits, things that we are carrying from the past, then that day you become a free person, really, really free, so light. And you become so happy, so joyful that yes, I have crossed over those lifetimes and lifetimes of misgivings that I was carrying with myself. I have gone beyond all of that. Now I become a totally free soul. That is so joyful experience. Such a joyful experience. That is called Brahmananda, freedom from material clutches. One is totally free, very happy, very satisfied. Now Arjuna asks questions to Krishna, the next section of this chapter, which is the last section. Symptoms, conduct, and practice to go beyond the modes. So symptoms of someone who's beyond the modes, conduct of that person, and the practice that we need to do to go beyond the modes. Krishna inquires like this in verse 21 of this chapter. Arjuna inquires like this in verse 21, and Krishna answers in 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26. So Arjuna's question has three parts. The first is by what symptoms? Krishna answers that in 14.22. Then what is his conduct? Krishna answers that in 23, 24, 25. And by
Hare
what
Krishna,
practice
Prabhuji,
can one surpass?
we cannot view properly the screen. Yeah.
Cannot view? Oh, so sorry.
You need to put in presentation mode.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So by what symptoms can a person know that one is beyond the modes? That's explained in verse 22 of chapter 14. Then what is his conduct? And that's in 23, 24, 25. And by what practice one goes beyond the modes? That's in verse 26. When we say symptoms, these symptoms are perceived by oneself. Others will not be able to see them. When we say conduct, this will be seen by the others. So there are internal changes, there are external changes of someone who has gone beyond the modes. The internal changes are something which only you will be able to see. Others will not be able to see. And the external changes are what others will be able to see. Like for example, how much one is attached or detached that others cannot tell. Only you can tell. That others cannot say. Are you a very attached person or you are detached in nature? That only you can say. How much love and hatred one has that others cannot tell, that you yourself can tell. How much it is there inside. So that's called the internal symptom. Verse number 22 is the answer to that. Then code of conduct, 23, 24, 25, what others will see. So verse number 21 is the question. Arjuna vacha, Kairlinga strin gunanetanatito bhavati prabho, kim achara kathang chaitang strin gunan ativartate. Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior and how does it transcend the modes of nature? That's the question. Now Krishna answers 4 verses together. Verse number 22 is internal. And verse number 23, 24, 25 is external. Shri Bhagavan Ovacha Prakasham cha pravrittim cha mohameva cha pandava na dveshti sampravrittani na nivrittani kangshati. That's an internal symptom. What it is, prakasham means goodness, pravrittim means passion, moham means ignorance, because these are the results, right? Goodness gives prakasham, illumination. Passion gives activity, pravrittim. Ignorance gives illusion, moham. So what is the internal symptom of such a person? When these things come in life or these things go away from life, that person neither hates them, dveshti, neither he desires them, kangshati. That's an internal symptom. Which means that person who is beyond the modes accepts the coming and going of modes without any liking or disliking. That person is beyond the modes. Which means what? When that person is alive, living, some days that person is so happy because the mode of goodness is controlling. And some days that person may be very sluggish and lazy because the mode of ignorance is controlling. And some days that person may have a burning desire to act because the mode of passion is controlling. Now, while that person goes through all these experiences, he neither likes those coming waves of different modes or he hates the going away of those modes, which means he just accepts them. He just accepts them. They are coming, let them come. They are going, let them go. He's neither attached to goodness, nor does he hate ignorance. And vice versa. So that person is beyond the modes. Beyond the modes. Which means what? Instead of the modes controlling that person becomes only an observer. And despite the modes coming and going, that person acts the way he or she wants to act without being affected by it. Right? So that is the internal symptom. Now, not others will not be able to see that. Only you will be able to experience that. Which means, in very simple words, saying nothing in life will disturb you. No experience, no environment, no situation. Nothing will disturb you. Because you will be accepting everything the way it comes. And when things which you like go away from you, you will again not be disturbed. You will accept that also. That means you don't then allow those things to control you, basically. Whether they come, whether they go. You don't allow them to control you. That is internal symptom experienced by that person. O son of Pandu, he does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear. Doesn't do that. Okay. Now, next three verses then talk about the external conduct. Udasinvad asino guneryo na vichalyate gunavartanta ityevam yovatishtati nengate. Samadukha sukha swastha samaloštashma kanchanaha tulya priya priyo dhiras tulya nindatma samstutihi manapamanayo tulyas tulyo mitrari pakshayoho sarvarambha parityagi gunatita sa uchyate. Gunatita means beyond the modes. Guna means modes. Atita means beyond. So gunatita. If you observe these three Sanskrit verses, you find two words are coming again and again. Which are those two words? If you look at these three verses.
Sarvarambha Parityagi.
No. How is it coming again and again?
Tulya
Sama.
The word first is Sama.
And Tulya.
And the next is
Tulya.
Tulya. Sama and Tulya. Yeah? And they mean what? They mean equal. So this person externally has this quality of being equipoised, equanimous. In Sanskrit, it's called samatvam, equanimity, which is a point that repeatedly comes in the whole Bhagavad-gita. Equanimity, be equal, be equipoised. That is the external conduct of a person. So this was a lesson for the previous verse. A cheater can only fool the world, but cannot fool the Lord inside. For what? The internal symptom of being transcendental to the modes. Someone can externally show that I am already transcendental, but one would know inside very much that have I become totally unaffected by whatever comes in life or whatever goes out of life. That's the real symptom of being transcendental. And external symptoms are this. So udasin means, who knows the meaning of the word udasin?
Laziness.
Neutral, right? Udasin means neutral, right? Correct, neutral. Or it's also called equipoised, equanimous, becoming equally disposed and seeing things equally. That's called udasin. So we'll read the translation here. The Supreme Personality of God had said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present or long for them when they disappear. That's verse number 22. Who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. That person is beyond the modes. Let's read the Prabhupada here. 𝗪𝗏 𝗪𝗏.
But Arjuna submitted 3 different questions and the Lord answers them one after another. In these verses, Krishna first indicates that a person transcendentally situated has no envy and doesn't hanker for anything. When a living entity stays in this material world, embodied by the material body, it is to be understood that he is under the control of one of the 3 modes of material nature. When he is actually out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of the material modes of nature. But as long as he is not out of the material body, he should be neutral. He should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord so that his identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. When one is conscious of the material body, he acts only for self-gratification. But when one transfers the consciousness to Krishna, self-gratification automatically stops. One doesn't need this material body and he doesn't need to accept the dictations of the material body. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act, but as spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? He doesn't desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. Thus, transcendentally situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. The next question concerns the
Someone else can read, Mataji.
Thank you, Guruji. Hare Krishna.
The next question concerns the dealings of a transcendentally situated person. The materially situated person is affected by so-called honor and dishonor offered to the body, but the transcendentally situated person is not affected by such false honor and dishonor. He performs his duty in Krishna consciousness and does not mind whether a man honors or dishonors him. He accepts things that are favorable for his duty in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, he has no necessity of anything material, either a stone or gold. He takes everyone as his dear friend who helps him in his execution of Krishna consciousness, and he does not hate his so-called enemy. He is equally disposed and sees everything on an equal level because he knows perfectly well that he has nothing to do with material existence. Social and political issues do not affect him because he knows the situation of temporary upheavals and disturbances. He does not attempt anything for his own sake. He can attempt anything for Krishna, but not for his personal self. But for his personal self, he does not attempt anything. By such behavior, one becomes actually transcendentally situated. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here the verse says one is equipoised. Now, one meaning that may come of that word, like one of you said also, indifferent. Indifference is not the same as being equipoised or being equanimous. It is little different. It's not the same. So we should understand this quality of samatvam. Sometimes people think samatvam or being equal means becoming emotionless, becoming totally indifferent. It doesn't matter someone is happy or someone is sad. It doesn't matter when people are smiling at me or shouting at me. It doesn't matter to me. I become like a stone, like a wall. I don't care. So that is not equanimity. We should know. It's not, people may say it's a thought or an emotion, but actually equanimity is not that. Neither it is being indifferent or careless to our experiences. Neither is it dry neutrality or cool aloofness. This kind of meaning of the word equanimity or equanimous or equipoise is taken by those people who are more impersonal in nature, or they have impersonal goals in life. From Vaishnava perspective, the word equanimity means it's a state of consciousness, a steady state of consciousness, a constant state of awareness. This is not a feeling that I am going to be equal to everyone and everything. It's basically an understanding of the reality of this world. When one becomes constantly aware that everything in this world is always changing, regardless of my experience at the present moment. Everything in this world is always changing. That's the nature of things and people in this world. And when one becomes totally aware of it, one develops the quality of equanimity. Because one begins to understand that this world will never remain or behave the way I want it to. It will not happen. So when we get used to the changing nature of this world, the true nature of this world, that it is transient, and at the same time we become aware that I am eternal, I am not transient, this quality of equanimity comes out in the consciousness. It is not something which is borrowed. It's not a behavioral change in one's life. And I'll change my way of thinking. Now I'll be equal to all. It will not work. It cannot work. So being equanimous is actually means being renounced or being dispassionate, which means you have warmth in your heart. You do feel people are suffering, so you do feel that. When people are happy, you also feel that. It's not that you have become emotionless like a stone wall, but it's just that you know, if today he is happy or she is happy, tomorrow she or he will not be. If today he is suffering or she is suffering, tomorrow he or she will not be. You are aware of the changing nature of this world. So you take everything with a pinch of salt. You don't get carried away by the changes that happen around you. Like today, it might be true that someone is a rising star. But then that same rising star will, after some days, some years, will be a falling star. You are aware of it and you understand it totally. That makes you equanimous. Which means you don't get attached to those changing things. Today, someone shouts at you, okay, this person is shouting at me today, but the same person maybe after a few days will be smiling at me. And after that, again, after 10 days, again, he may shout at me. So you are aware of that reality. And that's why inside, the way you get affected by those experiences is different from before. It's different from before, right? So that is called equanimity. Equanimity radiates warmth, compassion, joy, and loving kindness. This is what equanimity does. It's not cold indifference. And now how do we become transcendental to the modes? That's the next verse. Mam 𝗄𝗶𝗹𝗹 charena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. This is the ultimate solution, the solution of bhakti. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. At once comes to the level of Brahman. Srila Prabhupada, even at such a ripe age, he never suffered from jet lag. Never. He never had jet lags. Why? Transcendental to the modes. Unaffected by the modes. And his disciples were 50 years younger to him. They would, for 2-3 days, they would be in a different world because of struggling with jet lag. But he never faced jet lags. Transcendental to the three modes, unaffected by it. That person is situated on the level of Brahman. Let's read the purport. Very nice purport. Amrita Vilasi.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandana Prana. This verse is a reply to Arjuna's third questions. What is the means of attending to the transcendental positions? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but his different plenary expansions, such as Rama and Narayana. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or of his plenary expansions is considered to be transcendentally situated. One should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent and omniscient, and they possess all transcendental qualities. So if one engaged himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one can overcome them easily. This has already been explained in the 7th chapters. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surrounds the influence of the modes of material nature to be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to conquer qualities with Krishna. The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part of the partial of the Supreme, as gold partials are part of a gold mind. Thus, the living entities in his spiritual position is as good as gold, and as good as Krishna in quality. The difference of individually continues. Otherwise, there would be no questions of bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotees is there, and the activities of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual person. Otherwise, there will be no meanings to bhakti yoga. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. To be a person assistant to a king, one must conquer the qualifications. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman or freed from all material contamination. It is said in the Vedic literature, 𝗪𝗲-𝗪𝗪-𝗪𝗪-𝗪𝗪-𝗪-𝗪-𝗪. One can attain the Supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman's identity as an individual soul. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So regarding this verse, Srila Vidyabhushana Prabhu gives an explanation. He says, serving the lotus feet of one's spiritual master, it enables one to easily go beyond the three modes. Why is it mentioned that one should serve the spiritual master? Because the only reason why we are under the control of the modes is because of not having a service attitude. And the only reason we can go out of the modes is development of service attitude. It's just that's what's missing, the attitude of a servant to Krishna. So once that attitude is developed, the problem is solved. So a student or a disciple or a devotee, when he's always thinking how to serve Krishna, how to serve Guru, how to serve the Vaishnavas, how to do some service to them, and fixes one's life and soul on the orders given by the spiritual master, immediately the influence of the modes come down upon that person. They stop pushing that person, or that person stops feeling the push of the modes. It's the attitude of devotion and service which helps them transcend the modes. Not just knowledge, not just the ability to bring a change externally like a jnani, but actually transformation of the heart. So a very important lesson is here for us, that if you want to become transcendental to the modes in our life, we need to do this. What is that? Chant the Mahamantra, the holy names of Krishna, and do everything else you do in the spirit of Dasoha or Dasosmi. I am a servant. I'm serving. I'm doing it as a service. It's my seva. That spirit means spirit of humility. That spirit means spirit of giving. That spirit means spirit of making the other person happy. The spirit of service. So when we do everything we do with this mood, we go beyond the modes immediately. Right? Being Krishna conscious means 24 hours, every single minute, every single second, being in the mood of Dasoham, Dasosmi. I am who? I am a servant. That's called transcendental consciousness. That is Krishna consciousness. Very simple. It is that simple. Taking the identity of being a servant. Now you do anything, but do with that mood. You are a mother, think I am a servant. You're a father, I am a servant. You're a boss, I am a servant. You are an employee, I am a servant. You're the prime minister of the country, I'm a servant. You're a sweeper on the street, I'm a servant. Man, woman, anyone, anything, guru, disciple, I'm a servant. That's what I am. So when people act in this consciousness, they go beyond the modes. Right? And when they slip out of this consciousness, they are into the modes. The modes will trap them. So Krishna said that person attains Brahman. But Brahman is not the goal. The goal is Krishna. But Krishna is here trying to tell us that Brahman is coming from him. He is the basis of that Brahman. So this is the last verse. Brahmano hi pratishtaham amritasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya ekantikasya cha. The translation is, and I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. You can read the purport on your own. We'll stop here. Any questions or comments? Ashok Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In Shloka 12 and 13, the position is given if we die in a particular mode, what will be our next birth? My question is that in my life, suppose throughout my life, I live a life of passion and ignorance. And in the last 5-6 years, I realize Krishna consciousness, very seriously practice and somehow come in the mode of goodness. Will that 6 years of goodness will decide my next birth, or all ignorance or passionate actions which I have performed throughout my life earlier?
Thank you for. So what will decide what will be our next? Hare Krishna. So now what will decide what will be our next birth? It is going to be a mix of cumulative result of how we have lived our life. Like you said, for my whole life, I have been controlled by a mode of passion and ignorance. But then last 6 years of my life, I'm totally in goodness. It's not possible that you'll be in total goodness.
Correct.
Right? You are just giving a hypothetical situation.
That is also, my view was also, what in totality of my life I have done should decide my next birth.
Yes, but then what you will do at the moment of death, that depends on the totality of your life only.
Correct.
Right? So it's not just that momentarily I have switched over to goodness and I remain in goodness for now. That's how it's going to be. It's not like that. One who is not transcendental, that person is a mixture of three modes, with one mode more dominating than the other modes. So when it says when you die in goodness, it just means that the goodness was more prominent than passion and ignorance. That doesn't mean passion and ignorance are all missing, right? Isn't it? So now someone who dies in complete goodness means what? That person must have lived a life of complete goodness.
Okay.
Then that person in next life can get a body of complete goodness also.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay. Our nature is dependent on our body. Then why there is good or bad? How can I bring internal changes in myself? I do not understand the first question, why there is good or bad. And on the next question, how can I bring internal changes in myself? It's a nice question because internal changes cannot be brought artificially. External changes can be brought artificially. Internal changes can be brought by going through a shift of consciousness. And that shift of consciousness happens when we practice the instructions given in the scriptures very nicely. When we live our life based on what is given in the scriptures, in Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam, then there is change of consciousness. Then we have an internal change. Because when we follow the instruction of the scriptures, we have started becoming obedient to the laws made by God. When we become obedient to the laws made by God, then the material nature stops punishing us with the lower modes. When the punishment stops, we are free to act more in mode of goodness. Which means what? To move from lower modes to higher modes, it cannot be done independently. We are under the modes, which means we are under control. Now, if I want to move from a lot of control to lesser control, I have to do something. Do what? Do those things which will please that person to reduce his control over me or her control over me. Just like the person in the prison, in the jail, the more one is punished, the more one is criminal, a greater criminal, that much more that person is punished. That much more restrictions are put on that person, right? Now, going from mode of ignorance or passion to goodness means I want to reduce the amount of restrictions on myself that the material nature puts. When will those restrictions reduce? When I start following the instructions of God. The restrictions will reduce. And if I don't follow the instructions of God, those restrictions keep on increasing. No? Right? So the internal changes come by taking to the process of Krishna consciousness. That's the only way, no other way. No other way. That's the only way to change. There's no other way. That's why you see all these self-help books that are there in the market, they are all bogus. Why they are bogus? They only inspire superficial change in the person. They only inspire a behavioral change. They don't inspire change in consciousness. You know, you are just borrowing a concept from someone, and then you think, if I live my life based on this set of instructions, my life will change. So you're just borrowing their experience and putting their experience as your experience. It does not bring a change in one's consciousness, in one's character, in one's actual way of thinking, you know. But when we change our life based on what is given in the Vedic scriptures, in the revealed scriptures, because these instructions are coming from the supreme authority, Krishna, who is the supreme controller, when I change, that is then a more, tangible change. It's not a superficial change. It's a real change. That hunter who was killing the animals and not killing them, half killing them, and was enjoying seeing their sad state, crying and screaming, blood coming out from their body. How did that hunter change? By reading a self-help book? No. By hearing a motivational class by some nice motivational speaker? No. That person changed by following the instruction of a sadhu. He changed. And then that change was not superficial change, because it was a concrete change in the heart. And that person became so kind-hearted that he did not even want to step over an ant. That is change, real change. So that comes when the consciousness changes. We have to follow the instructions given in the scriptures. Then that change will come. Otherwise it won't. Otherwise it's only a bluff, nothing else. Only a bluff that people will change. They will not change. They will just be tossed from one mode of nature to another mode of nature. Just tossed, from one coat to another coat. That's how it will just keep on shifting. That's all. Not really changing. Next question we have from Neha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, my question is in 14.14 and 14.15, when one dies in mode of goodness, death in mode of passion. My question here is, time of death means the moment of death? That last moment of death, or?
Yes.
We understand the time of death.
Yes, when you say when someone dies in a particular mode, that means yes, when you died, what was the mode dominating you? So that's the time.
So the moment of death.
Yes, moment of death.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, this is Mataji asking, this is for external mode or internal? Suppose if you at the time of death he's staying in the Sankirtana, some places in a temple, that is at external atmosphere, and if he's still thinking something else in the mind,
it has to be internal. No, it cannot be external. The external can help to change the internal, but say it's the internal that will decide, not just the external. If someone is, let's say a dacoit, and then suddenly when that person is dying, you take that person to the temple, that will not send that person to Vaikuntha because he died in the temple, because that person's consciousness will not be the same as the temple's consciousness, right? So external factor is to change the internal, and that internal will decide our next destination. External is just a support system. You have to unmute yourself, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, we have a custom of reading Bhagavad-gita and giving Tulsi.
That is a support that you are giving to that person. You are helping that person. Right? But it doesn't mean that just because if you are reading Bhagavad-gita, that person will go to Vaikuntha. It's just a help that you are giving to that person. A support.
But physically it takes Tulsi water, that will not also help?
Why it should help? Why it should help? Why it should help? If that person doesn't want to go, how can you forcefully send someone?
So these customs doesn't help unless we change internally.
Yeah, if you don't change internally, then you can take so many Tulsis inside.
Okay, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, there's one more question, Prabhuji. There's in the 1422, God says that Prakasham is proper translated as illumination. That means what?
Knowledge.
Okay. And in 14th, in 11th also he says Prakasham for the knowledge, illuminated by knowledge.
Yes.
Okay.
Knowledge is related to light, metaphorically. Light brings what? Light brings awareness. Now, when it is dark, you cannot see anything. When there's light around, you can see things as they are. So that's what knowledge is. In knowledge, you are able to see things as they are. So knowledge is compared to illumination. It's a metaphor. All right, next question, Kunal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I will come up to the previous question which was asked. Let's say we lived our life mostly in the mode, influenced by the mode of goodness and ignorance, but in the last few years of our life, we moved or renounced or moved to the mode of goodness. But when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives a lot of examples of kings or personalities who've been living in the mode of passion or even ignorance, but later on, during they renounce and they move or live in the mode of goodness and eventually attain liberation. So how do we explain this?
Yeah, so when you say they changed themselves to mode of goodness, so you are saying that they renounced everything, they were liberated. So it's not that they got liberation at the time of death. Before that, they are liberated.
But it's still before it won't be all their life. It was a few years of their life.
Doesn't matter if you have completed the race. You have completed the race. That's the point. Now, like for example, after the transition from lower modes to goodness, you got stuck at 79%. So you have not completed the race, which means you have to take birth again. But then if you have completed the race, you are at 100%, then finished. It's done now. Now that 100%, how much time one takes to do that? It's all up to you, basically. You can take 2 years for that, 20 years for that, 20 lifetimes for that, 20 days of Brahma for that. That's up to you. Second thing, if someone has lived 50 years of life in passion and ignorance, do you think just by some sluggish practice, that person will be able to come to goodness in 2 years? No, then the practice also has to be so very intense. Right? I mean, you have to put the required amount of efforts. If someone puts those amount of efforts, yes, one can overcome the lower modes. But then those efforts have to be put in. That much intensity is required in one's sadhana. You're getting it, right? So it's not something which is fixed, but then it has many factors that decide what will be the result. It's not that one will have to take birth again. No, one can get liberation, but it doesn't mean that everyone will get liberation just because they went through the transition, because how much they have changed. All right.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
If one leaves the body in dham, but no change internally, will get body according to karma. If one leaves the body in the dham, then one has got some plus points, some credits. So those credits will allow that person to get maybe a better opportunity to execute Krishna consciousness in next life. But doesn't mean just because that person has left the body in dham, that person will go back to body. Because what is dham? Do you think the external looking city, which you call dham, is the dham? Is everyone living in the dham? To live in dham means to live in that consciousness. Anyone who lives in that consciousness, that person is living in the dham. If one is not living in that consciousness, anywhere you go, it's not dham. The dham is also not dham. Right? Sri Narottam Das Thakur has sung in a song. Vishaya chhadiya kabe shuddha hoibe mana. Vishaya chhadiya kabe shuddha hoibe mana. When my mind will become purified of all these enjoying tendencies, Vishaya chhadiya kabe shuddha hoibe mana. Tabe heribo Shri Vrindavan. Then I'll see Vrindavan. Then I'll see what Vrindavan is. When my mind will become purified. Now, we may say we are living in Dham, we have been to Dham, but what is Dham? Vrindavan is defined as Chintamani Dham. Do we see Vrindavan as Chintamani Dham? Or we see the building of yellow color, black color, white color, and monk is sitting on top of those buildings? What do we see? Right? So, all these statements which are given in the scripture, we should know they are basically statements of encouragement, support, but not that that's what will decide we will go back and back to God. Like someone may say, you put tulsi in the mouth of a dying person, then the potency of tulsi will help that person to go back to Godhead. That tulsi will support, yes, but the tulsi will not take that person back to Godhead. It is that person's desire to go back. If that person doesn't desire to go back, why will tulsi drag that person back to Godhead? Just to go there and give trouble to tulsi. Because she is the manager of Krishna's activities there, right? Now she takes that person back to God, and then she tells, you behave like this in Krishna's pastime, and that person says, no, I came here to become another Krishna. So then that same Tulsi will have to kick out that person. Get lost now. So why will Tulsi take that person back to God? Use common sense. If you are recruiting a person, on what basis will you recruit that person? That person should come and help me, right? So Vrinda Devi or Tulsi, she is the manager of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. She is recruiting people for Krishna's pastimes only when that person has that attitude of seva to Krishna. She will recruit. So we should know these statements, they are support, but they are not the deciding factor for someone attaining liberation. Okay. They say Ram Naam Satya Hai while carrying the body, so that the soul hears the Lord's name, so that it gets good destination. Well, people should chant Ram Naam not just because the person has died and that person will be benefited. They should chant Ram Naam because they will also die someday. So better chant. It's not for the other person you are chanting, it's for you are chanting actually. That you will also die. So now you chant for yourself. Chanting for others is only an excuse to make us chant. Right? That we chant Ram Naam.
Prabhuji, sorry to interrupt, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, that they say that the soul hears for 3 days after it leaves the body. This is true, or?
If the soul wants to hear, yes, can hear.
Because it is attached to the body and the body is carrying, and so it goes along with the body to the Shamshan Ghat.
I understood what you are saying, but the soul should want to hear, no?
Because the moha is there, no? Because of moha, so it will
So what do
hear.
you think? If you remove the body, the moha is gone? The subtle body is still there.
It's there.
Subtle body is still there, right?
Yeah.
So where is the moha gone?
Moha is there when listening to Harinam, it changes. No, probably it doesn't change.
It is not. It is not changing for one who is chanting. So why it will change for someone who is hearing?
No, while hearing it is, it will get purified.
It gets more benefit. See, all the customs, they are designed with the purpose of you getting the benefit the most. In the name of giving others benefit, is actually you getting the benefit. It's for you. You are getting the benefit. The other person may get, may not get. That's up to that person. It's you who will get the benefit if you do it consciously. We cannot send anyone back to God without that person wanting to go. It should be that person's desire. Otherwise, so many people chant Ram Nam Satya for Gunda, Mawali, criminal number one. They chant Ram Nam, they'll do all those Gita distribution, this, that. But they will not go to Krishna's Vaikuntha just because someone has chanted Ram Nam Satya for them. Right? When we have a very karma kanda mentality, then we get, we start thinking like that. Rituals will make everything. Rituals are just support systems. That's all. Rituals are only to support. It's mainly in the hand of the living entity. That living entity should have that desire. Like yesterday, I sent a quote, right? A person asked his guru, do I really love God? And the guru replied, do you really miss God? When the person begins to miss God, then more than anything else in life, then that person is ready to go back to God. Because you're missing God. You want to be there. So you go back because you want to be there. More than anything else, you want to be there. So Krishna says, okay, now come back. But then if I am missing something more than Krishna, why will I go to Krishna? I will not. Right? So it's a voluntary thing. We have to develop that attitude, that mindset. We have to develop that. Other things are all support system. All right, next, Harneet Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have two questions. One is in continuation with what you have said, that for us to rise up in the higher modes, what our upbringing has been, or what the family in which we are born in, or the the time that we've spent in the lower modes, all that matters. And then what decides the speed at which we are going to get into the higher mode? What does that depend on? Does that only depend on the, maybe we are serving the guru now, but we are again serving in the mode of maybe passion or maybe even ignorance at certain times. So what decides when do you transcend to the higher mode?
Okay, good question. So first, does the background, family, culture, upbringing affect? Yes, it affects. Very much it affects. It does affect. Because we are duplicates of our parents in some way. We have borrowed so many things from our siblings. So it does matter. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to expose anyone here, but then you look at your individual nature and make a list of bad habits that you've got. And then try to find the cause of those bad habits. The way you think, the way you act, the way you behave. And you'll see what someone in your family also had before you have it. And it is just coming to you from that person. It may be gross or it may be subtle. It's coming to you. Because we are connected, our karma is connected. So we are getting it. Right? So when a person is observing, a person will see these similarities. And a person will come to know that this is not me actually, but it is something which I have borrowed. I'm carrying because of my conditioning. The next thing, what will decide at what speed one will transform? The answer is very simple. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. It all depends on at what moment of your life you do this. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. The moment you do it, the moment you are beyond the modes. You can skyrocket from lowest level of ignorance to highest level of goodness the moment you do Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mahamikam Sharanam Vraja. You can skyrocket immediately. So it all depends on that. It all depends on that. Right? Surrender. Sharnagati. The moment we do surrender, we are out of the modes. But then that Sharnagati is not easy. It takes time also because we begin to first understand that we are not surrendered. We may think I'm surrendered, but then what it means to be surrendered. What it means to be surrendered. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Ashlishyava padaratam pinashtumam adarshanan marmahatam parotuva yatha tatha. He says, Oh Krishna, whether you embrace me or you roughly treat me, I am your servant anyhow. That's called surrender. You send me to heaven or you send me to hell, I'll be your devotee. That's surrender. That's called surrender. Right? Krishna, you do anything you like to do, but I will not give up your bhakti. That is surrender. So when one comes to that state of consciousness, one is above the modes. Then the modes are not controlling the person. That is what a person has to realize. Usha Mataji, okay, last question, we'll stop there.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Tanvat Pranam.
Prabhuji, I had one more question. Shall I put it in the... I'll ask you separately.
Later. Yes,
Okay.
Usha Mataji.
Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Tanvat Pranam. Prabhuji, I was wondering that for the deceased person, some of them are concluding the rituals on the 4th day, some of them on the 13th day. And after the exit, we also have that Garud Puran for 7 days. So will this help the exiting soul to take them to higher planets? Or as you already said that only if they desire. So these are just, we are carrying out as rituals, or will it really help them? Or it is helping us indirectly? Thank you.
The thing is that it will help them on the basis of how much they want to take the help. But it doesn't matter whether they take the help or not. We should do because it's our duty. Right? It's not that, oh, it's not helping them, so I should not do it. No, that's their problem. They are not taking the help. But you do because it's your duty to help. Like, for example, your son is not doing something correctly. It's your duty to correct. Now, whether that person takes the correction or not, that's that person's problem, right? Now, if you say what to do, this person is not listening to me, so I should also not do my part, then you are wrong. You're getting it. So people, instead of thinking, what is the advantage of doing this thing, they should do it because it's their dharma. That's all. Not whether, it's going to give some advantage or not. You're getting the point? It's my dharma. I have to do it. Like once I was giving this class, so one person asked me this question that we offer Shraddha to our ancestors. Let's say they don't get the benefit. So why should we do it? So I asked that person this question, whether they get the benefit or not get the benefit, you are no one to decide that. But when you will be put in the court of Yamaraj, Yamaraj will evaluate your life and what you have done and what you have not done. So then Yamaraj will see, you're born in a particular family. Anyone who is a human being and who takes birth in a particular family has a duty to offer Shraddha. Now, have you done it? You have not done it. So you rascal, you'll be punished. Because you have not done it. Right? You did not do your part. So the people who read the scriptures and then they take out rules and regulations and customs and traditions and whatever they take from the scriptures, they should not study it thinking what benefit we are going to get. Instead, they should focus more on the dharma part, the duty aspect. It's my duty. I should be doing it. Right? Like, for example, if you're chanting Hare Krishna and you're not getting benefit, let's say, what will happen? You'll give up chanting Hare Krishna. If you chant Hare Krishna for benefit. But if you chant Hare Krishna with this attitude, I'm so fortunate that out of millions and millions of people, some or other devotees came in my life and devotees gave me this special Mahamantra, which was personally chanted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So many great sages, acharyas, pure devotees have chanted this name, and I am getting an opportunity to chant this name. So dutifully, every day I will chant this name, whether I am benefited or not benefited. Right? Then you have, then you are.
Prabhu, these rituals, these processes, also help you to deal with your emotions, your grief, and it also gives you an opportunity to purge some of the sentiments that would be there in the relationship that you had with anybody.
Yeah, again, that is again what benefit you will get, right? What benefit you will get? What help you'll get from that? When you say,
helps you to move on with life, it helps you to advance, because otherwise, if you're just going to remain in that sense
I'm telling the point you're mentioning is again a benefit only, right?
Yeah, right.
The benefit. So I'm saying it's not just that we have to look at the benefits of doing it. We have to do it also as a duty. That's more important than just looking at the benefits of it, because that benefit may come, may not come. We are not the one who is going to decide, right? It's the providence who will decide, right? Now, if we are always in that mentality of benefit, not benefit, benefit, not benefit, then we should know, as per Bhagavad-gita, that is Sakam mentality. One has to come out of that mentality and do Nishkam. Nishkam means I'm not concerned about benefit or loss. I'm concerned about this is my dharma. I should be doing it. That is Nishkam. Right? So I should be doing it. Now, when someone is too materialistic in nature, you have to convince that person by telling the benefits. But when one grows in consciousness, then you don't have to show the lollipop of benefits. Then you tell that person, this is your dharma, do it. And that person will do. Right? So this is again a way of analyzing our approach to Krishna consciousness. Are we practicing Krishna consciousness just because we are looking at the lollipops that we'll get from Krishna consciousness? Or we really understand, if I'll not be a devotee, what else do I have to be? Do we really understand that? That other than this, I have no option. This is the only thing that I can do, and this is the only sane thing to do in world to be a devotee of Krishna. One has to come to that realization. There's nothing else to do. It is the only real thing to do. Everything else is just an illusion. Then you understand, oh, it's my dharma, it's my nature to be a devotee. Then you get situated into that. All right, we had a long discussion today. Sorry for keeping you waiting. See you tomorrow. Oh, not
Thank you,
tomorrow.
Prabhuji.
Next class. Hare Krishna will begin chapter 15. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.